What's going on, guys? Zuko back with another Shadowlands video. How's everybody doing? Listen, my voice is going to be deeper in this video. It's not because I just hit puberty, okay? It's because I'm a little sick, but that's all right. We're going to push through. We're going to get this video done. I hope you're all doing very well. Listen, we're going to talk about another dungeon that we did today. Yesterday, I think, actually, is when I did it. My notes over there. We did a plus 16 hauls, and there wasn't anything particularly crazy about it. I just wanted to talk about the build that we ran, and we are pushing into the higher numbers. I actually did an 18 Sanguine Depths yesterday, but I just did a Sanguine Depths video, so we're just going to hold on that one for a minute because it's kind of just the same thing, but harder. But I am going to be trying today, actually. I'm going to be pushing into some Witch Doctor Wolfbones builds in Mythic Plus, and in particular on a Fortified week, which is something that I think a lot of people don't consider doing. They just think you should run PLA, especially on Fortified weeks. Witch Doctor Wolfbones is only good in single target, but I'm going to get to that video later. I'm going to try and talk about how good I think Witch Doctor Wolfbones actually is. I'm going to do a Spires video, because look at this. We did a Spires of Ascension video, and I think we had Witch Doctor Wolfbones on for that one, and we did a lot of damage overall. So I'm going to talk about that one maybe tomorrow. But today, we do have this 16 Halls of Atonement, which was great. Halls has been traditionally a difficult dungeon for me to get through, and we got a 16 done. But there's the 18 Sanguine right there. But the Halls is what we have done. We did a 16 Fortified, which is pretty great, and I'm going to show you guys how to do those opening packs in the AoE. Like, the tank sort of needs to pull a lot of mobs together, right? That's pretty normal. You get so much of your trash in the beginning of the dungeon, and we'll talk all about that. And then on the boss fights, some specific tips and tricks that you can do. But let's start with the build that I ran. Oh, just whacked the mic. So let me get a drink here. So, of course, the build that we ran is probably the most standard build that people are running right now, and that is Primal Lava Actuators plus Necrolord. So you've got your PLA buffing your Lava Lash, and then you've got Necrolord giving you the haste buff. After you do your Primordial Wave and you cleave your Lightning Bolts, you get 40, 50, 60% more haste on AoE packs. Very, very strong. And then I run Plague Divisor Marileth, and you run Tumbling Waves. I actually ran Tumbling Waves plus Chilled to the Core here. I did not run Magma Fist, even though we were running a PLA build, and people could argue that I'm wasting damage there. I think there's obviously Magma Fist is super, super good, but I'm always going to continue to make the argument that I think Chilled to the Core is very, very good in Mythic Plus. And I'll talk about that in a second. But these are the Conduits we ran. Focus Lightning, Tumbling Waves, Chilled to the Core. You need Tumbling Waves to get the resets on Primordial Wave. If you do get the resets, not only do you get to cleave an additional, 5 or 6 Lightning Bolts, but you get an additional 12-second window of like 50% haste. So it's very, very strong in Mythic Plus. Definitely run that. You're always running Focus Lightning. That's the auto lock. The third Conduit slot is always a debate between like Magma Fist and Chilled to the Core, and you're only really going to take Chilled to the Core if you're running Hailstorm, which is what we ran. This is our talent setup. Lashing Flames, Hot Hands. I'm taking Hailstorm almost always now instead of Fire Nova. Fire Nova will hit more targets if you have... It has sort of an uncapped AoE potential to it, right? Because you can have 6 Fire Novas, you can have 6 Flame Shocks out, and then your Fire Novas will erupt from each of those 6 targets, and they will each hit 6 other targets, for a total of potentially 36 targets being hit, including ones that are like overlapping. So Hailstorm only ever hits 6 targets with your Frost Shock. Now, Frost Shock has a lower cooldown. It's 4.5 seconds as opposed to 12, as opposed to 11. So you're getting basically 3 Frost Shocks for every 1 Fire Nova. So you have to keep that in mind. The real reason I like taking Hailstorm is because of Chilled to the Core. Frost Shock generates Maelstrom weapon stacks, and that's really, really helpful when you're focusing on a fire build. Lava Lash doesn't generate a lot of Maelstrom weapon stacks like Storm Strike does. Now, in AoE situations, in Mythic Plus, of course, Crash Lightning is doing the bulk of your Maelstrom weapon stack generation because you're hitting multiple targets, and it has a chance to generate a stack for each target that you're hitting. So the real reason that Chilled to the Core is here is there's two main reasons. Number one is that it'll help you generate stacks of Maelstrom weapon when you're in single target encounters. like on boss fights, every boss fight you're going to have to do in the dungeon, your Frost Shock will be an enormous generator of Maelstrom weapon stacks. Frost Shock does way more damage than Fire Nova does on a single target as well, or on, you know, like 3-4 targets. I would say that it's doing way more damage there, because this gets buffed from 2600 damage up to like 4500 damage, and then that cleaves to everybody nearby. So that's a lot of damage that it's doing, as opposed to Fire Nova only doing 1700 damage. But if you have a ton of enemies, then Fire Nova does a lot of damage. So number one, Frost Shock will generate more stacks of Maelstrom weapon for you on single target boss fights, on any boss fight in general. Number two, it does a lot of damage on lower enemies when there's like only 3-4 enemies. Number three, it synergizes with the tier set bonus. And this is the last note that I'll say about my build here, is that this tier set bonus summons a dog whenever you use a spender. And if you're generating stacks of Maelstrom weapon with Frost Shock, then it gets you back to your spenders really quickly, right? You generate, you know, if you hit this in an AoE situation, if you hit 6 targets, you have a 6 times 2 potentially. You could get 12 stacks of Maelstrom weapon from one Frost Shock cast. One Frost Shock cast hits 6 targets, and if it procs on even, let's say, 3 out of the 6 targets, that's 6 stacks of Maelstrom weapon that you just got for one cast of Frost Shock. So nothing else generates this level of Maelstrom weapon stacks in the entire kit, not even Storm Strike. If you're in an AoE situation, this is the best way to generate stacks, and then you can convert those stacks into a spender, like Chain Lightning, and then that will maybe summon a dog for you, right? And if you summon a dog, well, guess what? You've got elemental spirits to make those dogs do more damage with their buffs that they're giving you. Really, it's a great little combination, and you can see it works really, really well in when you have the Witch Doctor Wolfbone's legendary. This is like the damage that I was getting in the just from the dogs being out. Molten Weapon, Icy Edge, really, really cool. All the buffs that they're giving you. So that's how it all synergizes together. You're gonna take PLA to spread the flame shocks around and get lots of extra damage on your Lava Lash. You're going to have a big haste window with 50 to 60% extra haste in AoE situations from the cleave of the Primordial Wave Lightning Bolt. Then you're going to generate stacks of Maelstrom weapon with Hailstorm with your Frost Shocks in AoE situations. That's going to synergize with your tier set bonus, which lets you use spenders more often, and all those spenders have a chance to give you a dog, a Feral Spirit, which of course is the Elemental Spirits synergy there as well. So that's the build. That's the build. That's what you're going to run. That's what I ran here. And let's jump into the VOD here. Let's take a look at it. So I know I took a little bit longer talking about that one, but it's important to just understand like why I'd made these choices that I made, right? Like what's the point? So Halls of Atonement plus 16. What are you going to do at the beginning of every single Halls of Atonement? You're going to pull a huge pack together and you're going to lust. Generally speaking, this is the size of the pack. You could pull a little bit more if you had like a Death Knight who could grip people in, but all the other mobs that are around the outskirts here are really annoying to try and pull in because they're all ranged and they're just not gonna come to you. So this is a bit of an overkill here. Honestly, we actually kind of almost waste our lust buff a little bit. We should have pulled more mobs if possible, but sometimes it's not possible with the composition that you have. You kind of need a Death Knight to grip them in. So anyway, lots of damage. We're doing almost 25k AoE, which is about average for what this build is able to produce on big AoE packs. What you need to understand about this build is that it doesn't have big spikes and valleys. It's just very consistent, right? It's always going to be doing between 20 and 30k AoE damage is what I would say. That's what you're going to average with this build, depending on how well you play it, depending if you get a hot hand proc or not. So these other guys are using their big cooldowns, and they're doing lots of damage. The tank's doing 30k because he was a Venthyr druid, and he had the...
This guy just swiped. Freaking... When you get a moment, check out the characters, and you...
Yeah, he's a Venthyr guardian druid, so he has that Sinful Surge buff where he like gets a stacking damage and haste buff, and then he just pops Incarn, and he just presses Thrash. And the Thrash does more damage, and he gets more haste, and he just keeps pressing it, and he keeps pressing it. He's got Ursox, I think, Fury remembered, so he just gets a shield. It's a really disgusting setup for Bear. It's really, really good. That's why he did so much damage. Hopefully you'll see, though, in this next little AoE pack here, that obviously Decurse in this dungeon is really important, but here's the next sort of AoE pack that's going on. He's pulling them together. I have my buff rolling now. You saw those lightning bolts go out there, right? I'm going to show it one more time. He just chilling? Let's see what's happening here. There's the lightning bolt right there. You saw it go bing, 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 bing. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lightning bolts. So I have 50% increased haste right now. So we start zooming. Zoom, 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 zoom. Our damage, everybody else is out of cooldowns, but we're not because we don't have cooldowns, right? So our damage is going to go up here. I think the warrior does get his Spear of Bastion back, but you can see the damage kind of equals out.
That's all I'm here for.
The Guardian Druid's not doing any damage anymore. And not the same amount that he was doing.
Warriors just kicking my ass in damage. What am I supposed to do?
These warriors are really good right now. If you have a warrior in your key, you're lucky.
I like the look of the Spore guy. He's got like a little minion.
You know, we were talking about some of the Tiny Tina's stuff. So this is where we really shine. This kind of 3-target cleave. You don't really ever want to pull 3-target cleave, but this is a bolstering week. So sometimes tanks are just like trying to clean up these extra little adds before they go and do a bigger pull. And this is where we're going to do 15k, 16k damage. Look at this. This is crazy. These other guys can't compete because this is like the enhanced wheelhouse right here. 17k, almost 18k damage there. We're doing more than double anybody else. So this is kind of where PLA really does shine. You have 3 flame shocks, and they're all taking double damage from lashing flames. Really, really good stuff here. So, but often tanks on a bolstering week will try to get rid of these, clip these little outer packs of mobs before they go and do a bigger pull, because you don't want to bolster the bigger pull, right? So this is kind of a bit of a time waste. Maybe he could have just went and pulled the bigger pack, but this next pack is pretty complicated, so I'm glad that he did it this way. So we jump in. Remember that there's a lot of curses in this dungeon. I just muted it again. There's a lot of curses, and you're going to see it's so important that we decurse as a shaman. We have so many extra tools as a shaman here that you have to use. AoE cap, like stun totem, AoE slow totem. You have a decurse. I'm going to use it right here on myself. See, I've got the curse on me down there. I decurse myself. There's druids can decurse as well, so we have a really good team actually for this Halls of Atonement because druids can also decurse. Really, really important. But on top of being able to do pretty great damage pack to pack to pack, we also have really good tools like an AoE stun, an AoE slow, a decurse. You've got a ranged 12-second kick, best kick in the game. Make sure you use these tools. Otherwise, it's just, you know,
I think I really
your
do
team's
love
not gonna have your team's just not gonna have a good time. Honestly, this is a huge reason to bring a shaman, is because they have all this extra utility that is really important. Here's a huge AoE pack that he does, but again, the tank knows he's got Incarn up and he's got his Venthyr ability up, so he can do this. I thought that he was pulling too much here, but it works out fine. Watch his damage. Watch the tank's damage here. 40k, 41, 44, 46, 47. He's got both those cooldowns rolling. Look at the damage he does. This is what I mean, that we're doing 25k, by the way, which is fine. It's not 63k, but what I'm saying is that there's other tools you can bring as a shaman. You're still going to provide enough damage for the team to be successful. And on top of that, you have all this extra utility on your utility belt that's really helpful to the group. So it's good to make sure you use it. Things like Wind Fury Totem,
like a bit of
Cap Totem, all that stuff, right? I put my Cap Totem down here, stun the bears. I should have stunned them earlier. I was actually really bad at doing that in this dungeon.
Tank's going to die. Yep.
This tank was really good. He knew what he was doing. So he's soothing now, which is really good. I should have stunned.
They were so bolstered.
The archer chick, the Hound Master, I should have stunned them. They do that, like, they buff the dogs, right? I need to stun them before they do that. I kind of messed that up, but the tank knew what he was doing, and he figured it out. Anyway, our damage isn't bad at all. Don't ever feel bad about doing 25k AoE damage. This is good. Nothing wrong with this. The tank and the warrior just had better cooldowns rolling. And by the end of the encounter, we actually get kind of close to the warrior there. But that druid just blew both of his cooldowns there, which is awesome.
Jeez, man.
He was absolutely clapping. There, there's our interrupt right there. My Cap Totem's coming off cooldown once again. Make sure there's a decurse right there. I just decursed myself. So many tools to make this all work. You have self-healing. You have fleshcraft to keep yourself alive. See, we're doing a lot more damage than the rogue and the druid now because we don't have big cooldowns like they do. We just have that consistent DPS profile. So, and then the extra utility to boot. So it's really, really good. One thing I need to get in the habit of doing as well, which I wasn't doing in this dungeon, is using Healing Stream Totem. I use it a lot, I think, in my Spires of Ascension video that I'll do tomorrow. But yeah, Healing Stream Totem does a
Oh, I
surprising
stood too close.
amount of healing. I was in the stupid AoE circle there, so. Anyway, that's an additional tool you can use as a enhancement shaman is just throw your Healing Stream Totem down. Just plop it down, and it'll do lots of healing. At this point in the expansion, like my healing stream is doing almost 1k healing every like 1.5 seconds. So it's like over a 15-second period, I think it ends up doing almost 15,000 healing. I think it heals every 1 second. So it's kind of crazy. Like you plop down a totem and it'll do 15,000 healing over the course of 15 seconds. That's really good. That's a really good amount of healing. So 527, 45. Let's go ahead just a little bit. There it is. One more little disclaimer here about the utility. Make sure that you're using it. So our damage here, I'm going to decurse myself right now. There's one utility. I have Cap Totem that I'm going to put down in a second here. Utility number 2. I've already, I'll use, there's another decurse. Once again, we decurse the second time. I end up stunning right now. I've stunned them all. There's utility number 2. I put Slow Totem down, I think, right afterwards to follow it up so that the Druid can run away if he wants to. And we're doing 25k DPS almost, right? So you can see the possibilities here. 25k. My I should put Healing Stream Totem down. I didn't do that. There's my Earthbind Totem, so utility number 3. I've also been trying to kick stuff like Wicked Bolt if possible and do my rotation. So this is what you're able to accomplish. It's pretty cool. Lots of utility. Really, really helps the group. And we still have good damage. So nothing wrong with that at all. Let's go to Halkias. 530. Oh my gosh, there we go. The Halkias boss fight can be really tough for melee groups because you want to stand behind him so that he can't like parry you, or you want to just do more damage from behind. This is one thing I want to highlight really quickly here. But so it's kind of tough for melee. Sometimes you can get blapped by the tank mechanic. The tank was doing a good job here. This intermission phase right here is really important when he does the Sin Light. You want to be able to maintain DPS during this phase. And if the tank, depending on how the tank is positioned, it might be difficult to do that. There might be puddles on the ground like there are right here. So there's a puddle right here. Right before this, the light starts coming out, I dodge to the right to get into this free and open zone right here so that I can keep doing damage. And then I do another thing that I want to show you. So I dodge to the right. It's spinning to the left. So I have to move to the left. I'm going to end up running into this puddle, which I don't want to do. So instead, I end up getting to the edge of the puddle, and then I back up in a line. You're going to see it right here. I back up along this line, and I use my ranged abilities, the versatility of the Enhancement Shaman set. I do a Lightning Bolt into a Frost Shock into another Lightning Bolt, and then he starts reversing the beam. So watch this. I'm actually just going to slow it down a little bit just so we can see it. Sorry about that. So we slow it down. I get to the edge. I have to start backing up. I don't want to walk into this puddle. Lightning Bolt, Frost Shock, Lightning Bolt number 2, and then I start coming back in, and I start doing damage. Now, that's not like an extreme example of it. There are much, much worse examples of it, but just important to recognize that, like, if he had kept spinning in this direction, if he had kept spinning to the left, I could have just kept backing up like this and not actually taken any damage, which is helpful to your team because this glass stuff on Higher Mythic Plus, this will nuke you down, man. It does a lot of damage. So I back up, Lightning Bolt, Frost Shock, Lightning Bolt. Because I'm taking Chill to the core, Frost Shock generated 2 stacks of Maelstrom weapon there. I got lucky, and I'm able to maintain DPS while running away from the boss. It's really, really helpful to be able to do that. So make sure that you focus on those kinds of things because that's a really good thing to keep your damage up while taking 0 damage yourself. So there we go. Good damage on that fight. I feel like I'm gonna sneeze in a second here. We actually didn't need to kill Woe here because we had a rogue. I just completely brain farted, but it's all good. Let's move on to Echelon 33. Here's the next boss fight. You are gonna lust here. Make sure Wind Fury Totem is down. A couple really important things on this fight. You can decurse yourself to maintain damage. While he puts a curse on everybody, you can just decurse yourself. We had 2 druids and a shaman, so we had 3 decurses here, which is crazy. Make sure you AoE those guys down. They do a lot of damage. Here's the curse. I decurse myself right away, and then I can keep moving. I don't get stunned, right? Which is awesome. There we go. You just maintain your DPS. Again, the Druid is popping some crazy Venthyr cooldown plus his Incar, and he's doing so much damage, which is really cool. I think he's just hitting Mangle, right? Yeah. Crazy damage. But that's the bulk of this fight is just make sure you win for your totem down. You're going to have to lust. Make sure you decurse yourself every single time that this comes out. Curse of Stone. Make sure you decurse yourself so that you can get out of it. And keep doing damage. And you'll end up doing a lot of damage by the end of the fight. It's really, really good.
Thank you, though, whoever see you, because I didn't catch
So that we did about 10.5, almost 11k there.
So.
Again, this pack here, make sure you drop your cap totem, your stun, when the Houndmaster is doing their buff, like when they're channeling their buff thing. It's really quick, so you have to learn how to time it, but I messed it up again here. You can prevent all the dogs from getting buffed, basically, and that's really important. You should try and do that. But let's move on to the Elise boss fight. 537. So, the Druid, the Tank Druid brought in 2 of the Loyal Stoneborns, which is really, really good. They do a lot of extra damage. Again, he's pumping damage right now. We're doing fine, though. 14k. Nothing really crazy about this fight except that the tank should try and position near one of the urns. And then we have a good ranged kick here, right? You can kick Volley of Power. Sometimes the melee can't get close because there's those red swirlies all over the ground, so make sure you use your kick to help them all out. Nothing too crazy here, though. Yeah. It's a fairly simple boss fight. All the boss fights in here are actually quite simple. Echelon is probably the hardest one, but the rest of them are fine. Sorry, guys. My nose is... Skip to the end. We do almost 10k DPS on her. I think with Witch Doctor Wolfbones, you could do a lot more. You could do a lot more damage, I think, with Witch Doctor Wolfbones, but I was running PLA in this. I do actually think that Witch Doctor Wolfbones is going to become the premier build for Mythic Plus. I genuinely think it's going to be really, really good. So we'll talk about that later. But PLA works perfectly fine here. You just do less damage on single target because you're not, spreading the love of the Flame Shocks around. But in this room, you should just always AoE this room down. Just always do it. I promise you it'll be faster. Don't ever try and single target the boss down. On the higher Mythic Plus, it's like literally not possible. He has too much health. So just pick a side, AoE it down. We have pretty good, like 3-4 target cleave with Hailstorm. But this Druid is just going to nuke it all, right? This Druid's great. He just thrashes. Press Incarn and thrash, so... You just nuke it down as quick as you can. I promise you this room might take you like a minute and a half to do. If you do it this way. If you just AoE everything down. Look, we have everything dead already. Now we just have to focus him. So just AoE this room down. It's a lot easier. Now,
Two last boss on...
we have 10 minutes to do the last boss, so we're doing well. This boss, obviously, this is Lord Chamberlain. I'll talk about one important thing if you have an all melee group here. A couple things can kind of go wrong, which happens to me at the beginning because I'm not respecting the mechanics enough. First of all, there's the telekinetic toss. You can see I'm an idiot. Look at me. I'm running in towards the boss, and you can see very clearly that I'm going to get hit here. Yeah, so... On an all-melee group, it can be kind of tough because we're all standing in the same spot. Basically, or we're all in the same general area, so you need to move out of the area. I try to dodge it here, and I just make a big mistake. So
idiot, I guess.
you need to just respect the mechanic a little bit more than I was there. Make sure you dodge the correct way. But sorry, this time I dodge. I get right at a dodge there, and I make sure that I'm respecting it. So our damage is pretty good here, 11k. It should pick up in a minute once we have time to DPS him. I do drop Healing Stream Totem, finally. Finally. Over the course of the dungeon, Healing Stream Totem will be really, really good. So get out of here, and then you need to stand in between one of the statues and the boss. The healer does not need to do this, right? The healer's over here. This is their moment that they need to heal. So, like, all the DPS and the tank need to be doing this together. And there is a way to soak multiple... I think the Druid is soaking 2 orbs at the same time right now. He's just sort of standing directly on top of Lord Chamberlain. I think you can soak multiple beams at the same time because he has a big hitbox. So I was ready and prepared to soak stuff, but they ended up doing it for me. So kudos to them. The warrior, I think, did it as well. He'll do it again because we've DPS'd him hard enough. Just you have to get out of here. And then jump in and soak a pillar again. I think that the warrior takes 2 pillars once again here, right back to back. So I was ready to help. They just wanted to do it. So fair enough. I summon Rocky here to give myself more health. You can Fleshcraft here. You can use Astral Shift here. This is when you need to use all these cooldowns. So that's about it. We get about 10.6k on single target Lord Chamberlain. So it's really, really good.
Nice.
That's it.
13.1.
We did 13.1k overall,
+9.
which is good. We're getting better.
+9 in the rating.
We used to be doing like 10, 11k overall. Now we're doing about 13k overall. So that's pretty good. And that is the boss fight. Let me flip back to gameplay here. So we did 13.1k overall. Again, your damage profile is going to look like this. It's going to be Flame Shock doing the most and Lava Lash. Flame Shock is doing the most damage because of lashing flames. Now, in order for this to be doing the most damage, you guys must tab target through enemies when you get a hot hand proc. You almost actually can, if you have Primal Lava actuators on, you can just be tab targeting all the time because like the cooldown of your Lava Lash will get reduced really quickly, right? If you have 4 or 5 Flame Shocks out. So you need to be tab targeting all the time if you're running PLA. If you're running like Witch Doctor Wolfbones, you have to wait for the hot hand window. But if you're running PLA, make sure you're tab targeting. You will get so much extra damage out of your Lava Lashes. That's how I'm doing 25, sometimes 30k DPS. It's because I have 5 Flame Shocks out, and they're all doing double damage. That's why. Besides, obviously, doing my regular AoE rotation, but that's that. So Flame Shock, Lava Lash, Lightning Bolt, because we're getting the resets from Primordial Wave, and we're cleaving our Lightning Bolts. We almost, we cast it 123 times, but it hit twice as many times almost, which is pretty cool. And then Frost Shock, of course, because of Hailstorm. So that's your damage profile. That's what it'll look like. And that was just a solid solid dungeon, a +16 Halls of Atonement there. So the tank was obviously really, really fantastic. But you can see at the end of the day, we were second on damage. That tank was crazy. He was doing 11k. He even beat out the rogue. So he was just playing very well. But we were second on damage there behind this crazy warrior who was doing a ton of damage. But really good stuff. Again, you don't always have to be in the top of the damage meters. It's about all of the other little things that you bring, right? It's about Healing Stream Totem, Cap Totem, Earthbind Totem, your 12-second ranged kick, your self-healing with Fleshcraft and Healing Surge. Make sure that you're using things like Rocky. If it gets to be a really crazy pull and the tank's having a hard time, get your Earth Elemental out there and help out. You have Lust. You have just a lot of tools, right? Even Tremor Totem for a fear. Hex for something that you don't want to deal with right away. Maybe on an inspiring week, you can hex something, right? So, we have so many tools. On top of the damage that we're doing, which is decent enough, it's perfectly fine. You have all these extra tools that you need to bring to your team, and it will help your dungeon be more successful. So that's it, guys. That's the Halls of Atonement +16. Enhancement Shaman doing lots of damage, using getting our tool bolt out and making it work. So thank you so much for watching. If you want to drop a like below, that would help quite a bit. Really helps the algorithm. If you haven't subscribed yet, I would also really appreciate that. Until the next one, we'll see you guys later.